You're listening to The Business Focused Photographer. If you're ready to transform your photography business into a thriving career, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll discuss fun and innovative ways to boost your creativity and income. Sound good? Let's go.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm here with a new friend. I am genuinely so excited to talk to because I'm just nosy. I'm nosy, and Leah Carter is here today to talk about studio rentals. She is the owner of Leah's Lens Photography, but also the owner of Sweet G Studio, which is a studio that she basically, I guess, kind of sublets to other photographers, which is a new trend that we're seeing. And as somebody who has a studio myself, I'm naturally curious about it. So welcome, Leah. Oh, and she's located in Southern Maine in a town that I just assume is absolutely adorable called Biddeford, Maine. Is it adorable?
It is. It's a very old mill town, which I
Cool.
love.
Well, welcome, Leah. Thank you so much
Thank
for coming
you.
on and entertaining my nosiness.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So, do you want to share a little bit about yourself, who you are as a photographer, and maybe a little bit of the story that led you to having a studio that you then decided to start renting to other photographers too?
Yeah, so I can go start from the very beginning. I used to work a corporate job. I used to be in sales and partnerships in sports, which I loved. And then during COVID, I got laid off, which was super unexpected. And then with that, I kind of pivoted into self employment and became a photographer from there. So that was COVID, so like 5 or 6 years ago. And then a few years into that, I just thought it would be fun to have a studio space. So I started looking around in my area. There's not a ton of spaces available. I do live near Portland, Maine, but I knew I wanted to be a little bit closer to where I was living at the time. So I looked at some commercial spaces around town. It took a bit of time. And then I found one. Like I said, we have all these mills in Biddeford. So there's a lot of different units within these mill buildings. So I toured a few different ones and found one. I think it was like 400 square feet. So it was not very big. And I basically like shoved a desk in one corner and eventually filled the whole space. So I had like a backdrop, a couch, a bed. Somehow I had all of those things and my desk all in one corner. Um, and then I started renting it out to other photographers. I used it. It ended up being a very hard space to use because of the light. So I didn't really get much direct light. And I don't use a lot of studio lighting. I rely more on natural lighting. So that was kind of tough. So a little less than a year later, I toured other spaces in the same mill. And then I ended up in this space, which is around 1,000 square feet, and I get a lot more light coming in, and I have a closet, a bathroom, and basically just this big open space to play. So now I rent it to other photographers, and I use the space mostly for my own branding sessions. I do host some like mini session type things in here. I have a floral setup that I just
Wow,
did this
it's very pretty.
weekend. That was so much fun. So this is like perks of having your own studios, just doing fun stuff like this whenever you
Yeah, yeah.
want. Um, so it's really busy during the winter here in New England. And then I also shoot weddings. So I'm not as much here in the summer, and it's not being rented as often in the summer. So throughout the year, like in total, I'm profitable with the studio. But month by month in the summer, it's a little bit harder. So I make more in the winter and then kind of upkeep it in the summer. And it's rented sometimes. And I'll use it a little bit for branding sessions, but just not as much.
Yeah, as somebody who's in the Northeast too, with a
Yep.
studio who is closer in size to your old studio. My studio is 600 square feet. So it is like a couch. We have seamless, we have storage, bathroom. There's like a little office area, but like
It's nice.
it is, it's not like these big cavernous studios that a lot of
Hmm.
photographers are renting now. But I can relate to the slow, like people, my like little business neighbors here, like in the summer, like, where'd you go? I haven't seen you all summer. I'm like, yeah, come
Yeah.
outside. I'm like,
Yeah.
I personally don't do a lot of studio work. It's actually, I was just telling somebody the other day, it's basically like a billboard that I pay rent for, and it's worth what I pay in rent. But a like I told you from the start, I'm nosy. I'm here because this is, like, something interesting to me. My studio partner and I are, considering finding a larger space right now.
Hmm.
She does, like, pose newborn and has a lot of props, needs a lot more space. And we've considered this as a way to offset the cost of a higher rent. Tell me about, what sort of clues did you get from your local industry, from the other photographers in your area that gave you the confidence that this was something that you could safely commit to that overhead of a larger studio? I'm sure your rent went up when you went from 400 to 1,000 square feet, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll be honest, the first year that I had that really small space, I was not convinced I would make it past my year lease. I was like, "Whatever. If this whole year is a bust, at least I tried it because I knew I wanted to try having a studio,
Yeah.
and if it doesn't work, then that's totally fine." So I tried to keep it, like, low expectations. I didn't have a ton of renters, but I feel like prior to starting that space, I worked a lot trying to get into my community. So Biddeford and like I'm in Biddeford Saco area of Maine. It's a very small community and people love supporting their small businesses. And there are a lot of photographers in southern Maine. So I did a lot of like networking and meeting other people to kind of like gauge the need, I guess, to see like if people needed an indoor space. And what I gathered was a lot of it was no one wanted to have obviously the monthly overhead of paying rent,
Right.
which makes sense.
Uh,
And it was like a lot of one off, like, hey, I don't know if I'm even going to be able to get studio sessions this winter. And what I heard from a lot of photographers was, oh, I've never shot in a studio. And it's one thing if you don't have interest to shoot in a studio, that's totally fine. But there are some people that were like, "Oh, I've just never done it before, so I don't know." And I was like, "Well, you can come in and do a test session and advertise it and see if it's something that people would want." So then I started seeing a need for like people getting in the space just to try it. And I totally get like it's hard to charge a client and just like try to shoot something. So what I started doing was hosting content days in my studio. So we basically did like I think a maternity session, a brand session, a family, and like a couple, maybe. So I would have a bunch of photographers in for the day and we'd do these little like sections and we'd go out for lunch in the middle. And it was just to get people into my space, like playing with the light and just like having a low stakes situation for people to try it. So, and also when I opened the big space, I had an open house with like models shoved in every corner. So it was
yeah.
like photographers could come, bring your camera, like I said, low stakes just for fun. And it was just fun for people to like try shooting in a studio. And that I feel like opened up a lot of doors for people. And then as people like grew their own portfolios in studio work here, that's like when I started getting more rentals as well. So it was like
Right.
a lot of little intentional things in the beginning because what I was hearing was like, I've never done it, so I don't know what to do. And I was like,
Right.
well, you can just try it if you want to. And that's kind of like how I got into studio work as well.
Yeah. Well, that's it. That was it for me too. My very first studio. I am an a mostly outdoor family photographer. I met some
Yeah.
photographers who had a studio and was just kind of like, "Hey, this seems kind of cool. It seems like, you have cold months. We have time when we're inside." And I found us a really small studio for my first one that was really inexpensive and I tried it out. And I think we're seeing a little bit of a shift in trends where the just like what you have behind you, these floral installations, the white studios, the natural light,
Hmm.
people are enjoying that direct light with the sun shadow or the window shadows on the wall. It's a trend right now, and, like, how smart to capitalize on that trend and create something. I have so many different directions. I try really hard to, like, make sure that I have a good sequence of questioning here. So I think what a lot of people are probably wondering, I know what I'm wondering, is like, what did that conversation with your landlord look like ahead of doing this? Do you think this is something that's going to vary state to state, landlord to landlord? How did you broach this with that person or that company?
So before I signed the first lease, I mentioned, "Hey, I wanna rent it out to other people," and I basically was like, "I don't wanna sign this lease if I can't do that, because otherwise, like, I don't know if I can make rent," essentially.
Right,
So
right,
that was, like, a super upfront conversation, and the mill has changed ownership a few different times in the time that I've been here, but it hasn't been an issue. I wanted to keep it very open. If I had more time, I would love to see more events in here, like classes, things like that, because it's really just like a big open space. And I have like random furniture, but it can really morph into like anything.
yeah.
So I wanted to keep it super open. Like if someone wanted to teach a class in here, they could do that, not just rent space for photography. So made sure my lease was very open that I could rent it out by the hour, like, with all normal, like, activities going on in the studio, but renting it out to, like, anyone, basically. So I made sure that was super clear up front, and it's never been an issue. I used to have a lockbox, so I'd have an extra key that renters would use, and now I use a keypad. So I make them a code, and they can, like, come in during a certain period of time. So that's how I give other people access.
So what you does the code change every time? Is it that flexible of a piece of equipment that you can just change create a new
It
code for like a limited time?
Yeah, so I make, like, a custom code for every renter, and they get, like, 1-hour rental, you get 10 minutes before and 10 minutes after to be able to
Oh,
enter and, get
yeah.
ready for your session and do, like, a whole hour session.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. It seems like you have like a really good skill set when it comes to admin stuff anyway, maybe from your past life and your prior career. But so what does it look like from a legal standpoint, an insurance standpoint? Are you getting a COI from everybody? Is there a really girthy contract that you've had to come up with to and probably clauses that you've added along the way since the inception of this studio?
Yeah, so I already obviously had insurance prior just for my regular business, so I let him know that I was opening a studio space. So we put that on my I don't even know what it's called. I
Right.
don't know
Your
what it's
policy.
called. It was on my policy, yes.
Yeah.
He put it on my policy, and then I think I had to let him know, like, how much, all my assets were in the studio.
Right.
And that actually did come in handy once because there was a leak. This is, like I said, it's a very old mill. So there was like a leak and some of my stuff in my closet got damaged. But it wasn't a
Oh,
big deal. But yeah, everything got put onto my policy. And then I already had an attorney for all of my contracts for my photography business. So I had them draft up something for photography rentals in the studio. And basically, I've just added to it as you go along, kind of like just with your photography business, you learn things and you
yeah.
add them to your contract. And honestly, I pride myself because I feel like I have a really great relationship with all of the photographers that come in here. A lot of them I know personally and have met in person. And if not, you chat online. And I feel like everyone's been so, knock on wood, respectful of the space. I've never had any like major issues. I don't require proof of insurance. And I've thought about it. A lot of photographers are brand new or they just do it as a side gig, like they have a full-time job and just do it for fun. So I don't know how hard that would be to enforce in my case, but luckily I've never had an issue.
Right. So what can you give an example of what sort of things have happened that have triggered you to add a clause to that contract and so nobody listening who might do this has to reinvent the wheel, learn the hard
Yeah,
way?
one of the big things was having the timing correct. So there were people that were trying to like stay later than their
Right.
rental. So I needed like something to expire basically
Right.
at the end of
Right.
that rental period so they wouldn't be able to still get in, or it was like I'm charging you X amount if you go over this. And like I said, I feel like I have a really great relationship with everyone. So I have my phone number posted everywhere. If you want to text me, you can. They can add time on. Like, my client's running late. So, like, can I stay here an extra or whatever? And I've always been super flexible with people, and same with like cancellations and stuff. It makes it harder on my day to day that I have, that extra thing to pay attention to. But it's
Right.
been super worth it because everyone has been super respectful. So, like, one was the length of time that people were staying. And then I'm trying to think of anything else major. I mean, like not moving the backdrop or like changing out the backdrop color or anything obviously is kind
Mm,
of a liability. I don't have
yeah.
like the ones that go on the wall. So I have a stand that has like three different colors on it. And so it's set up when you get here and like you're not supposed to touch it. Otherwise, it's just like leave the studio as you found it. And that's pretty much it.
Wow. So and in all that time, you've had pretty good luck with people being respectful of the space and the things within it?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I used to have in the previous studio, like I said, I had a desk in there. And so I was like, I don't need to have my own like belongings out. So now if I work in here, I just bring my laptop and set up in. So before I was like a little nervous about that, but then I was like, I should just get rid of it. Otherwise, not really. I'm trying to think of like the worst thing that's happened and I can't, nothing comes to mind. I did have a white rug for a bit and someone spilled like an iced coffee on it. But I'm like, that happens. Like, it wasn't them, it was like a child that was in here. So I just bought rug cleaner and spent my Friday night cleaning a rug.
I literally had a white rug in my studio that a child spilled coffee on.
Yep.
So it's like, because you're
It's just
kind of asking
inevitable.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. So what sort of things are you providing with it? Sounds like you have, is it seamless or is it a reusable backdrop? What are you providing as far as props or no props and equipment goes?
Yeah, so usually right here is like a faux leather couch. So this is like the couch area, and then I have a seamless backdrop as well. And I think I have, I don't know, maybe 10 colors or so. And so you pick it out using like a questionnaire prior to your rental. So I have all the information and I know what color needs to be set up for you. And then on this side is a like a day bed and a mirror. So those are that's pretty much it. And other than like these huge windows and these big window sills people use. But everything can be moved around other than the backdrop. So like sometimes I'll move the couch area and it's just like nice white wall and wood floors. And then this
Yeah.
is usually where I'll do like any installations or like holiday setups and things like that. So it's not like there's too many props behind the backdrop. I have a bunch of chairs and stools and things that everyone can use, but everything can kind of be moved around because I didn't want it to feel like, I mean, it already is recognizable, I feel like when you see photos, you're like, "Oh, I know where that space is now,"
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
try to make it that, like, you can customize it to, like, any industry that comes in. There's newborns in here, there's boudoir, family sessions, like, realtors, everything.
Well, yeah, I was on your Instagram, the studio, Sweet G, which I love. I love this. Such a we'll go there. But it's like very nondescript. You
Yeah.
like you said, there's newborns and the colors and the textures are totally different from the branding photos that are on there. So that is really appealing because agree that there are definitely like the rental studios where like, oh yeah, and every single session there looks the same because
Mhm.
it's just so easily identifiable. Are you finding that, like, you're getting a good mix of different genres of photography and events, or does it seem to really lean in one direction more than the other?
Think it's a pretty solid mix. I don't really work with families in here as much unless it's for mini sessions, and I feel like that in the winter is what a lot of main photographers do, are like family and newborn and more kids than I do. So I am definitely like branding heavy in here, headshots and things like that. But otherwise, it's a pretty solid mix. And I feel like the bed, I wasn't going to do a bed because personally, I don't really use it that often. But some photography studios don't have one. And I know it's a big draw for boudoir. I don't honestly get that much boudoir in here, but I feel like for family sessions, people love it.
Yeah, so if you're working mostly with window light in there and a boudoir photographer comes in, are they bringing in their lighting so that they can give privacy? Or is that not or is it located in a way like, are you on a separate floor? This is just me being
Yeah.
curious.
No,
Yeah,
that's a good question. So I'm on the second floor technically.
got it.
So like my eye level is actually a parking lot, but there's like a road in between.
Mhm.
So you can kind of see in from far away, but not really. And everything, all these windows have shades on them, luckily. So privacy is not really an issue in here, which is nice because there's nothing like no one can stand right outside of my window.
Oh, that's ideal. That's
Yeah,
really
it
nice.
is.
That's
It
great.
is.
Are there other studios in your general area, like 30, 45-minute radius that are doing the same thing as you? Is this a thing in Southern Maine?
There used to be a few studios that have come and gone within this mill, and I think the photographers were using it more for themselves and then just kind of renting on the side. I try to make mine like a very open rental for anyone, and then there's probably another studio like 40, maybe 30, 40 minutes north and kind of the same the other way. So I do kind of fit like a nice area. So I'm able to get some people come up from New Hampshire. It's not too far in southern Maine, but then can also come from north.
Wow, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
Are are you using it enough for yourself that sometimes your toes are getting stepped on with your renters that you're finding it a little bit difficult to work around your renters, or is it like a perfect balance for as far as your own, Leah's Lenses work, goes on?
Also knock on wood, because I've never really thought about that. Luckily, everything has worked out. I feel like for my brand sessions, they usually get booked out like 1 or 2 months or so, and then during the summer, like I said, I just don't have a ton going on in here, but yeah, I'm able to book out, like, more ahead, I think, than maybe some other photographers in the area, so I just have my time blocked off, and then it's available technically, like, 8 to 8, 7 days a week. So, really, there's never an issue, maybe on the weekends because I try to have some buffer room, but I've never had an issue. I don't shoot a lot on the weekends during the winter, so luckily, I'm more like I try to shoot between 9 and 5 Monday through Friday in here, and there's less full-time photographers in Southern Maine, so, like, a lot of the people doing it, like, on the side or as a hobby are trying to do it, like, outside of work hours, so it kinda works out for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess another question that is probably in the forefront of the listener's mind is, is the revenue coming in from renters covering your rent ever?
Yes, especially in the winter. So I started doing memberships in the winter as well. So it's like a discounted rate for 4 hours of time, and they don't roll over per month, but the hourly rate is discounted when you basically purchase upfront for 3 months. So I do it for January, February, and March. And this year I had like 4 or 5 members, which was great. And so I don't think that alone covered rent, but it was pretty close. So
Yeah.
during those months, definitely covered, plus the things I do on top of that, like the regular rentals. But adding things like the floral setup. So I use this and then I basically just structure it. So I have my minis and then photographers can rent like that afternoon. So I have 4 hours of rentals and, it's increased rate because of the setup. So I'll do that for the floral setup. Trying to think if I have any others. The holiday one is a big one, so that one's open for, like, weeks and weeks prior to Christmas. So I'll make a good amount on rentals doing that as well, and honestly, like, those big ones really help to make rent, and with Leah's Lens revenue plus the rental revenue, I've been able to be profitable every month. Like I said, the summer months are a little bit closer, but throughout the year, like, when you look at it over the year, the whole studio is profitable. Otherwise, I wouldn't have obviously kept it for this many years.
Leah, you must feel like you struck gold with this. Like, what a
I
dream it
do.
you have that. And um, is there enough like green there that it's also kind of like boosting your overall income as a photographer? And are there months when like the studio rentals are bringing in more than your actual portrait work through your own photography business?
Yeah, not as often. Obviously, as a photographer, like the price of doing a 1 hour shoot is going to be a lot more than the rental. But definitely, like, I'm thinking last month I went on vacation for part of it, and the studio was still able to run because I have someone that helps to come clean it and turn it over. So I think in last month's case, the rentals did make more than what I was doing in the studio. But otherwise, I am doing a majority probably of the work in here, and I'm in here most often. But what I saw was, like, that need it's just, like, the studio space sits open for, like, so many hours a
Right.
day, and I'm like, "I just wanna see it used, and it would
Right.
help to make my rent." So, that's kinda
Yeah.
where it came from. I feel like I missed the question that you said down.
No, you answered the question.
Okay,
I was
cool.
curious if it was competing with your actual photography business as like a main source of income, but it sounds like it's just a really nice way to help make rent on a space that's important to you, and it really cuts down on that overhead then
Yeah, it
of
does.
having
So
a studio.
I think with the revenue from Leah's Lens and the rentals and memberships and anything within that category, I believe it makes up like a third of my overall revenue throughout the year, which is actually pretty impressive considering I do weddings, which is like a huge chunk of it. So it
Yeah.
does make up like a pretty significant portion, and it's just
Wow.
opened so many doors in general for
Yes.
me.
Um, I have to just stop and acknowledge that somebody with a really competitive and scarcity based mindset could never do what you're doing. So clearly you don't feel threatened by the photographers using the same setup that you're using the space that you're just sharing the wealth basically. And I saw the rates that you're charging and you make it very doable for photographers. How did you like really grow that mindset? Do you feel like you came into the industry with that, with a more community based, growth based mindset, or is it something that you had to adopt in order to run this studio rental?
I feel like probably so like the first 2 years when I didn't have a studio, obviously battling like imposter syndrome, and I was like
Yeah.
pretty much denying that I was even a full-time photographer. Just I don't know why. And then
We
yeah,
all
as
do
I
it.
started to get more into the community, that's kind of when things started shifting of like seeing that there is more than enough to go around for everyone. And that's like for weddings too, obviously. So like as I became friends with other photographers, like genuine friendships, I was like, oh, this is like super fun and we can share our referrals as well. So like I'm not free on this date here. I want someone else to have it kind of thing. And so like having that mindset with my regular business and then shifting it into the studio has just like as I shifted that mindset, the community just kind of like opened up, if that makes sense. Like it feels like it just became a space that was really open to everyone. And being able to like lead with that mindset, I feel like goes a long way because people feel that like just small things like, oh, I have to cancel today, like something, whatever came up. And just like having the understanding and empathy for others to know, like, you never know, like, what people are going through. So, like, just even though in those small ways that I'm running the studio, I feel like it helps, like, with the respect side of things. So, like, when people come in here, they're respectful of the space and their time in here and mindful of their clients and all of that, like, grows on itself. And I'm hoping like bringing more people into the space, like through those content days or any community events I've done in here, makes it so it's a comfortable space, like that people know, oh, I can go in there and like it feels like my own space as well because it's shared.
Yeah, that is there I just love that you're bringing that to the table. Is that generally the culture among photographers in Southern Maine, or did you feel like you cultivated that and created a space and set the tone?
Only existed prior to me, but having like the physical space is what I saw as like kind of like a barrier maybe to others that like I mean we there's a lot of us that get together and work at coffee shops nearby and there's all sorts of like networking events and wedding things that we all go to and that's super fun but like a part of what was lacking was like bringing people into one space that was kind of like meant for photographers and creatives in general.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Not to be corny, but I really believe in that energy propelling
Yeah.
your own business. You are lifting up others around you and lifting up yourself. And I do believe that everybody benefits. I have yet to hear of a story where a business owner was had an open mind and an open heart to other people within their same local industry and it damaged their business. I think it's always the opposite. I think it grows so much for everybody. Okay, we'll move away a little bit from the woo because I know a lot of people here are listening are for like the how to. So, do
Yeah.
you mind talking a little bit about the tech stack and the equipment? Like you talked about the lock. What are you using for scheduling? What are you using? What is this magical lock with and like all of this stuff and so that you don't have to be so much of a property manager as you are a facilitator.
Yeah. So honestly, I feel like it's not too many things. The one big thing is the lock. And that sometimes has become an issue, like, if I forget to send a code because that happens, or someone has trouble getting in with the lock, that happens.
Yeah.
But obviously, that was like one of the most important things, making it like physically accessible to people. I don't offer lighting or anything. I used to offer it for rental, but then that just got kind of complicated. So I just left that out. And some people bring in their own lighting. Like personally, I just use on camera flash and that's enough for me. Even on sunny days, I'll use it. So most people rely on natural light. So like no tech in that way. I'm trying to think. Otherwise, I don't have a lot going on in here. I have my closet space that's locked up. So that's like where all my extra props and um like extra backdrops are. Um, I have a vacuum that I use very often and clean in between
Yeah.
every rental. I use Pixie personally, so I use that as my CRM and my gallery delivery system.
Oh,
So
okay.
I also use that for people to rent through as well. So I basically
Oh, okay.
made like 1, 2, 3, 4 hour rentals that people can click the link, and I have a calendar system that will block it off and they'll automatically get their paperwork sent to them. So all of that backend stuff is just where all of my other photography CRM stuff lives as well. So that's been super helpful to keep it within there. And I do have a separate email address for the studio. So when you book, you'll also receive a welcome email that includes like, double checking all of the details of when your rental is and what color backdrop, and then also like how to get here and parking. There's a few different parking spots you can get to. It's confusing if you get lost in the mill. So I make it very clear, like using videos and maps and everything so everyone can get here without an issue. And then you get your lockbox code, and that's about it.
You in your head, to you, this is all very simple because you have it running, but
That's true.
that's not
Yeah.
very you did a lot of legwork to prep this. Pixie Set, familiar with as
Yes.
CRM, was my CRM until this year. Um, there's like an automation when somebody books, it automatically can send a piece of information now?
Yeah. So I have it. So it sends their invoice and their contract, and they have to pay their deposit
Got
all
it.
at once to
Got it.
get it
Great.
confirmed. Yeah.
That's great, and then it makes sense because it's probably going into the same calendar as Leah's lens, so there's not gonna be that conflict if you have something going on in there. Oh,
Exactly.
that's smart, that makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
and, as far as pricing goes, photographers are notorious for having a hard time with pricing and underpricing and, like, maybe overpricing, usually not overpricing, but it's hard to find that balance. Is that something that you experience as well as setting the rates for your studio rentals?
I'm trying to think back to how I figured out my first rates, and I don't really know. I did a lot of research, obviously, in the market, and there weren't a lot of rentals at the time. But I'm trying to think. I guess that's what I based it off of was, like, competition anywhere in New England of what I could
Sure.
find. And
Yeah.
then I also know that, like, I clean and reset the space or my assistant every single time there's a rental. So, like, you'll never come in and the furniture's in a different spot every time. I want, like, every single thing in its place, and you get a fresh roll of paper and all of those things. So I knew that that was, like, obviously a little bit more value. And then I also tried to keep in mind, like, what photographers are charging around here. And like I said, a lot of people are not full time. So I know that their rates are a little bit lower. So try and keep that in mind. So if someone charged this much for a rent or for a 1 hour shoot, like, and taking off the rental, if they didn't pass it on to their client, like, is it still profitable and doable to them? And I'm super proud to say that I've never raised my rates in all the time that I've had my studio. I may need to raise it soon because obviously rent has gone up,
Yeah.
but I've still been able to operate with those same rates, which is awesome.
That is awesome, while you did figure this into what you could afford, I'm sure, as rent, it's also just in many ways, it seems like it's a bonus amount of income that's coming in. That's wonderful. I'm also curious now about you mentioned earlier one of the problems was people staying past that you had to kind of how were you becoming aware of that? Do you have cameras? And then how do you regulate that? How do you kind of make sure that people are starting and stopping during their contracted time?
So that actually is a piece of tech I forgot. I do have a door sensor, and I
Okay.
don't use any cameras inside or outside of my studio. And there have been very few times where I think that would have been helpful. But honestly, I just asked a few friends and people in the community, and I said, like, hey, how would you feel if there was a camera in the studio? And everyone's kind of like, I don't love the idea. Even if it
Right.
was, I have like a perfect pillar where it could be just facing the door. So I see you come in and like the shooting area would not be in the camera. But
Right.
it's like, you know what? If I don't need to have that, I really don't want to have to deal with that. And in this hallway, people also live in this building. So there's like tons of people walking in and out of this hallway and for other businesses. So I was like, I don't really want to have a camera on the outside and get dinged every time someone walks by the door. So as of now, I haven't had to deal with installing a camera of any sort. So through an app, I'm able to see like when someone unlocks the door using the lock and like what custom code was used. So I'm able to see it that way. And plus the door sensor is a separate app. So I'm able to see when the door opens and closes. And it's mentioned in the contract. I don't know how many people actually read their contract, but I say like it could be enforced by using the door sensor. But again, I haven't really had to enforce that at all. The issue more was like if I had back to back rentals and I or someone else need to come in to clean the studio, like I have it so there is enough time, but like you can't overstay without letting me know that you want to add extra time.
That you're gonna have to share the name of this lock because it sounds pretty cool. What do you know off the top of your head what it's called?
I got it just from Amazon. I don't know. It says Smart Life.
Okay. All
I
right.
can
Well,
give it to you after.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll throw it in the show notes because I think the person who owns or who rents the storefront next to my studio has a gym where people can come and go when he's not there, and he must use something similar because otherwise, how that's very interesting, and
Yeah.
wow, and what are the parameters for people who are renting from you? What are their responsibilities when they arrive and before they leave? What are the expectations that you've set?
So you get 10 minutes prior to your rental, you can come in, and ideally, like, I set that up more for the photographer to come in and kinda, like, get settled and just
Right,
if they
right.
haven't been here before, get acquainted with the space, get their camera ready, and then obviously some clients just come a little bit early anyway, and then with the 10 minutes after, it was the same thing, like, some people do a cake smash in here or whatever, use confetti and things like that, so you need to build in the time to clean that up. Really, my only thing is making it look exactly the way it was when you came in. There is a bathroom in here, and I include, like, cleaning supplies in there as well, so, like, if you do a cake smash, there is stuff to clean up if needed. There's a trash can, there's recycling. So, really, I set up the space so you should not be able to leave a trace. I have, like, waters, snacks, I have everything you would need for a photo shoot, like lint rollers, hairspray, wrinkle remover, the dog treats, crayons for kids, and coloring books. So really, it's supposed to be like you can come in, get comfortable, and also clean up quickly and head out when you're done.
Wow. How impressive. Like, what a great, like, I don't we have a fridge in here, and we did have a coffee bar, like, it has not been stocked in a very long time,
Yeah.
so kudos to you. That's quite a bit of overhead that you're carrying and a lot of value that you're offering to your renters.
hmm
Alright, what do you say we wrap up with a lightning round, some lighthearted, easy questions?
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah? All right, Leah. Okay, your desert island lens, the one that if you just had to choose one to shoot on for the rest of your life, what's it gonna be?
My 50 millimeter.
Me too. Which
I'm a,
one?
I shoot Nikon. It's 50 millimeter, I think 1.8, which is
Okay.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or maybe it's
yeah,
1.6 or no, 1.2.
1.2 is it's a big guy, right?
Yeah, it's heavy.
Yes, my that's
Yep.
a 1.2. That's also my desert island lens, so
Is it?
I'm
No, not
that
many other people like the 50, I feel like.
I think it's such a new thing that Nikon has because of the mirrorless that people aren't aware because Nikon one of my, I've been using Nikon for, like, 20 years, but one of my biggest complaints is that they didn't have a really high quality 50 millimeter for so long, and I almost went to Canon for their 51.2 until Nikon was able to do it,
Yes.
and they did it beautifully, and I think it's still, like, not well known about, but I saw in my, pre-show stalking that you also have a 35 1.8.
Yes, I do.
How do you like that one?
I never use it. I don't know why. I never do. It's either my 50 or my 24 to 70.
Or
Or if I'm
70.
doing a proposal, obviously like a longer lens. But
Right, yeah.
50 is
I
like it really I try not to let it ever leave my camera.
It's just so good. They have a 35 1.2 now that is slowly coming down from its original $3,000 price point, so I'm just, like, waiting for it to get closer to 2 to because I really want it, but
Yeah.
what's interesting, I'm not that techy, but right now I really do want a 35, is that Nikon has the 35 1.8, 1.4, and 1.2, and it's the 1.8 that's quite expensive. The 1.4 is it used to be one of their most expensive lenses for DSLR, so I'm curious about curious about, but I think I just need to go for the one two for that 35. Anyway, what body are you shooting on?
NZ 6 3.
That's what okay, so my Z7 II has almost 500,000 actuations on it, and it needs to be replaced, and I'm looking at the Z6 III. It looks like it's just a no-brainer of a
It
camera to go
is.
with. Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Mm.
I did want that or the Z8, which is also really
Z
nice, but that one's more expensive.
Yeah. My main buy
Yeah.
right now is actually the ZF, which seems like a novelty,
Cool.
but I
Yeah.
love it. It's a great camera. I've been using
Oh,
it
that's
as my main
cool.
for probably like 2 years now, yeah.
I haven't used
All
it.
right. This is a non sequitur. Rolling Stones or Beatles?
Beatles.
Yes, correct.
Correct.
Do you have a favorite Beatle?
No, I will say I'm not, like, huge on either, but I would pick the Beatles.
Yes. I mean, well, I feel like there's no room for subjectivity when it comes to the Beatles. It's just like
Yes.
science. They're the best.
Timeless.
Okay. City or country?
I don't know. I'm, like, right in between. I was gonna say city. I'll just stick with city.
Ocean or mountains? I know also hard for a
Ocean.
Mainer because you have
No,
both.
ocean. Ocean's definitely my
Ocean?
favorite. Yeah.
All right. Okay, the seamless color you run out of the most.
Oh, I think pecan, which is like a light tan.
Yeah, yeah, familiar. What's is there one that you've never had to replace?
Um, Honestly, black doesn't get used very often. I
It's
don't
so
replace
funny.
that very often.
I don't use seamless, but my studio partner does. And
Uh-huh.
I've never seen her use black, but she has it set up right now, which is I'm very curious to see what she did with it. So it's funny you say that.
Interesting.
Yeah. Studio or on location?
This is probably a no-no, but I'm gonna say on location.
Hey, that's okay. I also will say that too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I know this one, natural light or artificial?
natural.
Yeah. Um, Another non sequitur, dogs or cats? What do you have a dog?
I do. I'm also allergic to both dogs and cats, but cats are a
You
little
love
bit
it.
worse, and I love
Yeah.
dogs.
What kind of dog do you have?
She's a mutt. She's I don't
Aw,
know, a whole mix of things.
the best. Yeah,
Yeah,
my best dog. Don't tell my golden retriever. My best dog is a mutt too. Yeah.
yeah.
What is your most underrated Sweet G amenity that you offer or underused?
Honestly think it's these big windowsills and, like, big
Yeah.
windows because they
Yeah,
provide all the light, but less people use them as, like, a prop,
right.
basically.
Yeah, I could see
But
that
that's, like, one of
being
my favorite things about the mill is, like, the brick. I have this white brick and huge tall windows.
yeah, that is exciting. I bet that's
Yeah.
awesome. And what do you feel like is the most overrated amenity in your studio?
Probably the bed. Like I said, I never use the bed, but I feel like it's, like, people are like, "I need a bed in a photography studio."
That's
Like,
so
you really
funny.
don't.
All right, branding or elopements or our weddings?
No, you can't do that to me. I don't know. Um Oh, it depends on the season. I guess I'll just go with weddings because those are just, like, obviously incredible.
Yeah, yeah. Shooting or admin work?
Shooting.
Yeah.
Like,
Nothing else.
if I could give my business to someone else and I'll go shoot every single day, I'd be so happy.
I hope none of my clients are listening, but for me, it's the opposite. I
Really?
think. I think maybe.
I don't mind, like, the business part of it because of, like, my
Yeah,
background, but I
yeah,
would much rather be shooting all day and be busy doing that.
yeah. I think I'm just old. I think I'm just old. I have the best
That's fair.
clients. It's not the clients. I think I'm just like, I don't wanna put on pants. That's really what it
Yeah.
is for me, is I don't wanna get dressed in,
You can get
like,
around it.
Exhibit A.
Yeah.
Okay. The best part of hosting a studio?
The community, seeing, like, how many
Yeah,
people come in here, and what's been cool is I'll, like, meet a small business out in the wild, and they'll say, "Oh, I've been photographed in your studio," which is so cool because maybe I've never met that business, I don't even know who photographed them, but, like, I'll see so many different people pass through here, and I think that's so cool.
I agree. That is so cool. What
Yeah,
like a great, like, way to just network and connect with so many different people. That's
yeah.
great. Okay, not to put you on the spot, and maybe I shouldn't end on a sour note, but is there the worst part of hosting a studio?
I said, all of like those little things add
Yeah.
up. So like when my business is really busy, having the studio is what puts me over the edge some days, and it's, like, really small things, just, like, someone shifting an hour, which really isn't a big deal, but that means I need to, like, change their code, update their contract, resend over their contract, make sure my assistant's coming in at the right time. So it's, like, all of those little things where I'm, like, I'm also trying to run my own business, and really at this point, it is 2 businesses that I'm running, but there are most days it's super easy, super straightforward. Everyone's very respectful of the space. But then other days where I'm like, oh my God, why is everyone canceling, rescheduling, getting sick, all of those things all at once? So that's probably the worst part.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. It is always the little tiny things that like send you into a
Yes.
tailspin.
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, well, Leah, I know that you, beyond being a photographer and a studio host, that you mentor other photographers, you offer education. Where can the photographers who just fell in love with you find you, learn from you, see your work, learn more about Sweet G, all that stuff?
So I'd say I'm probably most active on my Instagram, which is at Leah's underscore lens underscore. And from there in my bio is like my website. And I also have my studio linked there if you want to check out what the space looks like or who's shooting in here and things like that. And I do have a TikTok, which is a little bit more like behind the scenes content that you can find me on as well. And any mentorship stuff is on my website.
Great. Thank you, Leah, so much for letting me pick your brain.
Yes.
It's been lovely talking and learning from you. Who knows, maybe in the near future, I will find a bigger space that where I'll just copy you and you just gave me the
Yes.
blueprint for how to do it. So,
Yes, you
but really,
should.
yeah, well, thank you again. I can't wait to inspire a bunch of photographers to maybe do the same thing. So, uh, yeah, it's been great talking to you.
Yes, this was super fun. I so appreciate it. Honestly, like I said, like I mostly run my photography business. So like talking about my why and like how all of this got started was a really fun start to my day.
Yeah, oh, good. I'm so glad. I appreciate you, and I hope that I can come up with another reason to have you back because 'cause you've been lovely.
Yes, I would love that.
Well, have a great day, Leah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
So until next time, keep shooting, keep creating, and keep building the business that supports your dreams. Have a fantastic week. And remember, in the business of photography, your creativity is your biggest asset.